I just heard something. Okay, is it on?
All right, so it's actually been 2 years since we did this because no one realized it last year. We didn't do it last year.
Yes.
Whole story behind that, won't get into it. But we kind of need to start over. So we're going to do supervisory training today. Next week, as you guys know, for all direct care employees and everyone, they need to come next week to the employee training. So I want to get your minds moving for a second.
Do you have an attendance sheet?
It's coming around. I want to get your minds moving for a second and get you back into the drug state of mind. So, quiz. Work together for 10-15 minutes. Take it. It's just 10 questions, not 20 like last year.
Well, we partnered last time.
Okay.
10 questions. Get you in the right state of mind, and then we're actually going to review after the training's over, okay?
I think we were partners last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, and we have some in our corner. Around to us.
What do you think? What she took it.
There's 50 of them. You shouldn't have to share. What?
Keeping your waist in your crotch, don't you want your head in there? You don't know how to keep your head in there. Right.
We need more back here.
Can you see his head there? Don't walk up this way. Stay there. Don't walk up. What do you say?
Give Dave one. He needs one.
You can have our.
Dave will make up his own answers. Watch.
I will.
Right. You need your behavior. Come on, Dave, we need your expertise. Ask the employee if he's taking leave.
Remember, the audio's on here. He's recording things.
C.
How about let's open up the brewskis.
Good one, Dave.
Number 3. Dave, what you do for 3?
I'm doing it.
He didn't even, Dave said he didn't participate. Employee with the.
Don't confuse me. I'm very confused.
I don't know. For how long is this employee? They say an hour.
Susie.
Yeah, much better.
I got smart.
Say I'm going to add 15 minutes. 9
You guys are up to it.
You ain't.
You guys are the up to it.
Are you just gonna wait for me to get the answer? There are 4 symptoms categories. Right. Yeah. Tardiness, slurred speech, excessive use of prolonged or having
All right,
emotions.
2-minute warning again.
What's number 7?
7 before 6 and after 6 before 8.
Can I have a test, Frank? Somebody took my test.
Probably C.
I actually changed it. I had some other ones. All right, we're actually going to go over the answers when we're done, okay? So, is everyone done? No. Who needs more time? All right, one more minute.
Yeah, we gotta work out for a couple of years.
Oh, I just gave you an answer. Whoops. Thank you. I did what?
Well, remember Christina said she wanted, you suggested one other time and she made it earlier because she wanted to get out of whatever they do.
Yep. So she's doing it, so she's getting her way.
Is there a separate setup sheet for this thing?
It's coming around. I think it's right there.
Oh, okay.
I didn't need that left brain, but I wanted to. I respect to see.
All right, we good? All right, let me have your attention then for a few. I'm not going to go over the test just yet. I want to go over that at the end. And we'll see how you did. But I want to go over our policy. This is a new policy. I did not make copies of it because it's still being rung through the ringer, through the board and everything, so there still might be some grammatical stuff that's done to it, but the actual program itself is going to be the same. So I did want to just show it to you. There's not a whole lot of differences from our last policy, but there are maybe a couple things that might be different. So let me first go over, all this stuff we know about. This is talking about how we all want to be free from drugs and alcohol when we come to work, right? Of course. Can you bring beer and wine and all that stuff to work? Why not?
There's a lot of whining.
What about your bowls and your little big-ass bongs that they got now? Can you bring that stuff and leave it in your trunk? No? I got mine in my trunk. Is that not good? Listen, I'm bringing this up, of course, I'm joking.
Oh, yes, they do.
You cannot have paraphernalia and/or alcohol and/or drugs at the workplace, on company property, in your car on company property. All of that constitutes, having that stuff on you, and we're not allowed to have that while we are at work. Okay.
Frank?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. Right. Yes, Tom.
That's just like, what if I'm just saying, for instance, you have someone else's car, and by chance you just happen to open up their trunk, and you see this, and you like somebody walk by and say, "Oh my God," you know what I'm saying?
It's TS. It's TS. It's tough shit.
If you drive it, it's under your responsibility and your control. That's exactly the way the police work.
That's what the cop said.
At the moment, you probably gonna be held accountable, but if the person who car you driving owns up to it, then you
Yeah.
are,
But
than that.
from an immediate standpoint, we view it the same way the police does. If you're driving it, you're responsible for it, you own it.
Tom, yes.
There is one exception. There is one exception, and that is when the board authorizes an event that there are some off-duty staff, volunteers, and guests that can partake of alcoholic beverages at a board-sanctioned event. And so there are occasions, as an example, at the garden party, which we generally have annually, in which alcohol is served and it is authorized on the property. But except for those board-authorized activities, it's a no-no. If
Absolutely.
you drive it, you own it.
Yep. Moving on.
Just keep the truck closed.
Here's one thing that they bring up in the policies I don't think we discussed in the past, and that was prescription drugs. Now, if one of your coworkers or one of your employees is taking, let's say, Darvocet or Percocet or something like that on a regular basis due to pain, and then you as a supervisor notice that they appear to be have slurred speech, they appear to have bloodshot eyes, they appear to be just out of it. And we notice, 3 or 4 things due to that. And then we ask them, well, what's, is there something going on? Are you okay? And they say, oh, well, I've been taking this Darvocet or this Percocet for the last week due to my back issues or something like that. It's a prescription, right? They have to be able to show that prescription. Now, we don't want to ask them right then and there. But if they tell us this is why, the new policy states that what we need to do is actually get a certificate from the doctor stating that this drug will not affect them while they are at work.
No doctor's gonna do that.
Now, that's what we have to get if we notice something like that. And they tell us, well, this is the reason why I'm acting like this. Is that reasonable suspicion?
What position?
The what? So could we still send them for a drug test even though they just said this is why I'm like this?
Sure.
Yes, we could, but if they tell us right off the bat, hey, listen, I'm on this new prescription drug and this is what it's going to do to me, this is where we have to get that physician certificate to say they're able to do the job that is expected of them.
It's
This
just
is-
like any other work release, basically.
Yeah, this is where HR would come into play on this as well.
So what if they put it on the emergency contact form?
But
And they say, well, some emergency contact form, because it's a place where it says if you take medication and what's the reason for it. So does that help him out in that
Well-
situation?
We
Not
still
if
need
it's
to
a
see the
narcotic.
prescription.
Okay.
there are two different things. One is, a doctor's not going to prescribe you Percocet for 72 years. Okay? Your emergency contact is for while the person is working, for however long that employment is. So you don't put acute healthcare drugs. The purpose of, you don't on that emergency contact. What you put on the emergency contact is that if you're on blood pressure medications because you're subject to strokes, or if you're on heart medication because you might have heart disease.
Well, the reason why I asked that was because, like, a lot of people, including myself, like, suffer from headaches. So the controlled substance, the headache medicine they might get is a controlled substance, and they might not take it on a regular basis, but they take it whenever they have it, and the doctor will prescribe it.
The purpose for emergency contact for medications is in the event that something happens and you need emergency care, that we have the information and we can share with EMTs or someone else that you're on certain medications. If that medication is such that it would cause an issue, then yeah, you can put it on there, but that's not going to relieve you of the fact that you need to provide a physician's release on that medication.
No, I'm just saying, like, if they were being forthcoming about it. So that's what I'm saying.
So if I'm on medical marijuana because I got a physician's prescription, okay, because I have seizures. The purpose for the emergency contact is to know if you need treatment. It is not giving you clearance whether you're on suspicious
Okay,
behavior.
okay.
Those are two different reasons, two different purposes.
And if we send,
By the way, it's not legal in Ohio.
if we send somebody for a reasonable suspicion test, and it's based on, you know, say they tell us I'm on Darvocet because I hurt my back. When they go take that test and they test positive for Darvocet, the MRO is going to call them, that's the medical review officer, and say, you've tested positive for this. Do you have proof that this is medically prescribed? Then you'll give the MRO your prescription and you'll come back clean because you weren't taking a drug illegally. You were taking what was prescribed to you. We would then turn around and say, well, here were these, you know, issues. We were concerned if you were able to do your job, and we'd ask your doctor to clear you. But you wouldn't come up positive like you failed a drug test, like you were taking drugs off the street.
Right on. Moving on. Next is what we test for. And this is no different from the past. What you're seeing here is cutoff level and the confirmation of a test. So these are the drugs that we test for: amphetamines, barbiturates, marijuana, THC, cocaine, crack. You know, your antipsychotics. I'm sorry, your psychotics, your benzodiazepines, your Valium, meth, all that sort of stuff. Opiates, heroin. We're testing for basically everything. Okay. The only thing that's not going to show up on our drug test is the synthetic stuff, fake weed. You guys know what fake weed is?
No.
Fake weed is what they used to sell in gas stations,
This is the educational portion.
otherwise known as spice. The other one is K2. These are sold as actual incense. But what teenagers are doing, or other people are doing, is smoking it as if it's marijuana. And it gives you the same effects as marijuana, plus it gives you psychotic effects, it kills you, you know, it does lots of stuff to you. It doesn't, no. They just market it as an incense so they can sell it. Actually, in October of 2012, it became illegal in the state of Ohio. But I can almost guarantee you we can go to the little convenience store across the street and they probably still sell it there. But that's a big thing that teenagers are doing now. That's a big thing that a lot of people are doing because it doesn't show up on a drug test. Because it's man-made, it's synthetic. There's a couple other things.
In the plain dealer, for those of you who still read that, there was a conviction yesterday that set a pretty heavy precedent for the spice. Two gentlemen from the west side were convicted. They have financial penalties of in excess of $400,000. In addition to some criminal record and some fairly extensive other kinds of activities imposed upon them by the court. And so you might want to think, of course they were dealing,
Yeah.
but you might want to think about that.
Yeah, it's that's especially popular in like high school kids and college kids because, well, it's legal, right? So might as well smoke it. It gives me the same effects. But what people don't realize is that people have died from it because no one knows what's in it. And it's not like weed. It's a lot different because no one knows exactly what you're putting in your body. But anyway, the cutoff level is what's important here. You have to reach a certain level in order for something to be a positive drug test. So the confirmation test that it says there, that's what's going to confirm an actual positive test. So with THC, for example, I believe it's in milliliters. So 15 milliliters equals a positive marijuana test. So what that means is, if I'm at the Snoop Dogg concert or at the Dave Matthews concert, and everyone is smoking weed all around me, and I happen to inhale that, am I going to reach 15 milliliters just from that secondhand smoke? Possibly, but probably not. So we may, let's say you take a drug test the next day and you get randomly selected, you may test to 0.08 milliliters. That will not constitute a positive drug test. So you have to reach that certain level in order for it to be a positive drug test. So there's that cutoff level for all these different types of drugs. But the moment you smoke weed or the moment you take a hit off of that bong, guess what? You're going to be at that level of 1.5 milliliters. Okay? We'll get into that stuff in a little bit, but this is the cutoff level, what the level you have to reach for all the drugs. They give us definitions here, blah, 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 blah. What about over-the-counter stuff? You know, you're taking NyQuil, and you're working third shift. Is there alcohol in NyQuil?
Yeah.
What if you buy the NyQuil that has codeine in it too? What do they call that? Syrup? What is that stuff? What is it called? Scissor up? Scissor up? If you're buying NyQuil with codeine, and then you're coming to work. Yes, that's an old wine.
Oh.
But you can buy NyQuil.
Yeah.
And NyQuil has alcohol in it.
Yeah.
So if you come to work with NyQuil in your system, depends how much you drink, right? Could you be over that 0.04 level, by the way, which equals a positive alcohol test?
Yes, you can.
You could be. So over-the-counter drugs, everyone's like, it's just an OTC, it's okay, right? Well, some of that stuff can have alcohol or other types of stuff in it that could constitute a positive drug test. So you got to be careful with over-the-counter drugs as well. All right. The times in which we drug test. This is no different from the last 6 years we've been doing this. Pre-employment drug screens. If anyone fails a pre-employment drug screen, guess what? They don't get hired, okay? Random. We are still doing random drug testing. We have to randomly drug test 15% of our workforce per year. Let's say we have 400 employees, that would equal 60 people would have to be drug tested per year randomly. It's done on a quarterly basis, so about 15 people are selected every quarter. Same way we've been doing it, where they'll get a call from Norma or Brittany or myself, and the employee will then have 24 hours to go and take that drug test. If I remember correctly, we are paying them 2 hours for their time, but we are not paying mileage.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, it is.
Okay? So random is still the same way we've always done it, okay? We have reasonable suspicion, which we're going to get into a lot in a bit here. So I'm going to skip over that for a sec. We then have post-accident. Basically, any accident now is going to be drug tested. You slip and fall on the ice and it's the middle of February, guess what? Drug test. You chop off your finger while you're cutting up onions. We'll pick it up, we'll put it on ice, and we'll take it with you to the drug testing site.
Only if there's injury.
Only if they receive medical treatment, correct?
That's correct, you gotta clarify
It's
that.
an accident
If they
with
slip
medical
on
treatment.
ice.
So with medical treatment.
We'll
If
say
you
there's,
slip
we're
and
not
fall and don't
injured.
hurt yourself.
You gotta
you're
drag
not-
yourself off the property.
We'll say we're not injured.
But if you pick your finger up, you gonna have
I'll
to
call
have
Robin to
some
drag
blood.
it out.
You're picking your finger up, absolutely.
Frank, you need to add that in there, because I thought we had sent back those changes.
Okay. I guess this is just the draft still, so this isn't the final.
But we gave them to
I
Jane.
think I can get the one out of Jane's that has.
Yeah, because we added,
Because this is the one that has barbiturates spelled the way it sounds, and the final one has the right spelling of barbiturates that we thanked Darrell for. I'll find it.
So post-accident, so if medical treatment is needed, then they are scheduled for a drug screen. Let's clarify that right now.
So when they go to the hospital, they just say, hey. I'm-
However, clarification, that's when someone is injured. Post-accident can also mean post-automobile accident,
Correct.
when there is no injury, but it's at fault.
Correct.
So if you have an auto accident, if you back into a stationary object, you're gonna get tested.
Right. And at your fault accident, absolutely.
Now, the one clarification on accidents, I'll use Frank's example. He said if you cut your finger off, you'll be tested. If someone else cuts your finger off, you will not be tested.
That person who cuts your finger off will though.
I mean, we do have injuries that occur because staff are attacked or something happens, you know, that wasn't their actions. That's not going to get a drug test. If staff gets hurt because a client does something to them, that's not tested. It's if the staff had control of themselves when they got hurt.
However, if you come in my office and cut my hand off,
I'm
I'm
probably
not
gonna
getting
get
drug
drug
tested, you are.
And arrested.
Interested.
It also mentions anything in excess of $1,000 in damage as well is considered, will also constitute a drug test. And as Tom just mentioned, any traffic violations or if you get in an accident that is your fault, you'll also get a drug test. All right.
Not if you get a stationary object anymore, Tom?
Yes.
Annually for anybody that
Isn't that
is
what that
carrying
says? Isn't that what that
NMT
means?
certification.
Yes.
Yes, we do it. It's not part of drug-free workplace, but it is.
It
It's
is
the
a
NMT
requirement
regulation.
for NMT.
So they are
Put it in
annually.
there.
Return to duty. Here's something that's somewhat new to us, I think. We have to now offer, now don't get me wrong, there will be circumstances where we won't offer this, but we have to offer a second chance agreement to anyone who tests positive for alcohol or drugs in their system on a positive drug test. Now, don't get me wrong, if someone gets in an accident and they're drunk out of their mind and one of the individuals in the car with them dies due to that, are we going to offer them a second chance agreement? No. But if we're talking about things that are not a risk to our individual's health and safety or other people's health and safety, then we have to offer a second chance agreement to someone who tests positive. So this would include random drug testing. This could include reasonable suspicion. This would include possibly post-accident, depending on what happened in the accident. So what that means is when someone gets a second chance agreement, they are then, through HR, they are, what's the word I'm looking for? Thank you. Referred to our EAP, our Employee Assistance Program. So that's IMPACT, okay? They're referred to IMPACT. That's paid for by us. IMPACT is paid for by New Avenues. IMPACT does not provide the services. IMPACT then refers them to a drug counseling center or rehab or whatever. That is then paid for by the employee either through their health insurance or out of their own pocket. So they then are signing this agreement that says, I will go through this program, I will take a drug test before I can come back to work, and then they are subjected to 3 additional follow-up tests throughout the next 12 months, randomly. So they have to agree to that if they want to come back to work for New Avenues. If they do not agree to that and sign off on that, then their employment will be terminated with us. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that is somewhat different than what we've done in the past, and that's more of a BWC regulation than anything else. Okay? Promotional drug testing. Anytime you are promoted to a higher paying position, you will be subjected to a promotional drug test as well. So those are the basic 7 times in which we're going to drug test people. That really hasn't changed so much from the last time I went over this. Okay? All right. Alcohol. 0.04% and above is considered a positive alcohol test. So if someone comes into work and they smell of alcohol, and then we take them for a reasonable suspicion drug test, and they blow a .03, that does not constitute a positive alcohol test, so they would not have to go through the second chance agreement, because it has to be .04 and above. That's an answer to one of the questions on your test.
Yes, it is.
Do you guys know what the legal limit is?
0.08, of course, is the legal limit. But the new Avenue's legal limit is 0.04 and a 0.039.
Now, when you get the results, do you get the number results or you just get positive or negative?
For alcohol, we get the number from the breathalyzer.
Quiet, please.
Actually, for alcohol, they'll tell us that it was, they never say negative. They will say it wasn't non-negative, and then they will give us, we can get the 0.02 or 0.04 or whatever that is. For any other drugs, it's just positive or negative. And if we ever needed to know the exact number, we would have to go through the MRO to try to get that.
So I think that's how I'm confused. You're saying that they won't give you a number, but they'll say it was positive. So if someone blew a 0.02, it will show positive.
No, I'm saying other drugs, it's just a positive or negative based on the cutoff levels we showed here. With alcohol, we get the number.
Cause they gonna retest it and it's gonna cost more.
With alcohol, if you blow anything other than a 0, they're gonna have you blow again in 15 minutes, and we're gonna get both readings.
So alcohol, we get the actual number. With the actual, THC or something else, we don't get the number, we just get positive.
So if you got a 0.1, that's the number, and that will say that someone has alcohol in their system. So I guess I'm confused on the
No,
question.
you got a level that it has
It
to
gotta be
exceed.
0.4.
It's gotta be above
0.4
or
to be positive.
If we sent someone and they tested a 0.01, we would consider that that they were not under the influence of alcohol. They would tell us 0.01, that there's alcohol in their system, but it's a 0.01. That doesn't violate our policy. If we got a 0.06, it would violate. But for other drugs, like marijuana, anything like that, it's just straight positive or negative.
Okay, makes sense.
0.04 is the...
So keep in mind that if you test positive for, let's say, THC in your system after an accident or something like that, is there going to be disciplinary action?
Yes.
Yes. Now that could result all the way up to termination if it is warranted, okay? But just because someone tests positive for THC in their system during a random drug test, does that mean they're terminated?
No.
No, they would get the second chance agreement. But again, remember, disciplinary action does come into play if you test positive for drugs in your system, depending on what happened, okay? So, like I said before, if someone gets in an accident and someone dies and then you test positive for alcohol in your system, guess what? You're terminated.
Well, let's take it a step further. If you have an accident in an agency vehicle and you're under the influence, our insurance carrier will not cover the cost of the accident. You will be personally liable for the damage to the car you're in and anything you hit, in addition to termination.
And it won't be a workers' comp claim if you get messed up in that accident too.
Right.
Because the alcohol in your system is why, and workers' comp will say they'll dismiss it.
So,
And that's not our choice, that's how the Bureau views it.
so it's serious stuff if you're drinking on the job or you're under the influence of the drug.
Absolutely. If someone refuses the conditional offer, the second chance agreement, that's grounds for termination as well. If someone refuses to take a drug test, so if it's a reasonable suspicion, or even a random, or a post-accident, if they refuse, that will lead to automatic termination. What else? What else? We talked about all this. Oh, if you attempt to change or use the Wizinator. Anyone, you guys know what the Wizinator is?
No.
I
Do
won't
you
get
want to
into
bring up a
details.
picture, Frank?
I could pull it up real quick, but I won't. But that would be something that you can use to deter your results. So you can just imagine what the Wizinator is, okay? So if you brought that into the drug testing facility and then we found out that your pee was too warm or not warm enough, that would be results termination, okay? Everyone knows about Impact, our employee assistance program, correct? Oh, I want to show you guys real quick. This is our reasonable suspicion observation report. Once this is finalized through the board and everything, I'll put this on the iDrive for everyone to have. But this is
You'll have to send it out because only people on this campus have access.
Okay. I will email it out. This is our reasonable suspicion report. I believe it's different from the one we were using in the past.
Yes,
This
it
one's
is.
a lot longer. It has, you know, your appearance, behavior, speech, and body odors. That's a question and answer on your test, by the way. So it asks if any of this stuff is occurring. Then it goes on to get into quality and quantity of work. This is where you can mark patterns. So patterns of behavior or lack of work or quality of work, quantity of work. This is where we can mark this stuff and document from a regular basis. And then it also goes on to general job performance, work relationships, personal stuff. So this is all stuff we can mark and sense patterns and changes in people's work habits and that sort of thing. So I will send this out and also put it on the iDrive, okay? That's the policy in general. I wanted to go over that real quick, but now I want to get into a couple things. All right, we know why we're here. Substance abuse in general. We all know what substance abuse is, right? Inappropriate use of a drug resulting in physical, emotional, financial, social, or intellectual consequences. Good enough. What is substance abuse? We know what it is. 14 out of 100 employees abuse drugs on the job. There's 50 of us in this room right now, so that means 7 out of 50 of us are abusing drugs while we're at work.
6 other than Frank.
60% of thefts are due to drug use on the job. So these are just some stats. I don't want to get into that too much. We already talked about when we will be drug tested. I want to get into reasonable suspicion. So when the heck is reasonable suspicion? Is it a gut feeling?
It should be what you observe and what you see.
Observable facts, right? That's what reasonable suspicion is. It's not a gut feeling. It's not hearsay. Oh, well, Robin told me that Susie said Melanie was doing this. Well, that's hearsay, right? We can't go by hearsay. We have to go by observable facts. Here's another question on your test, or answer to a question on your test. Suspicion will be documented in writing prior to the release of the test findings. So if you, I think that's on your test. I thought it was. You need to document this stuff ASAP. So if we send a person out, we need to make sure we have the documentation by the time we get those findings back.
Well, you have to make sure you have it into HR by the time the findings come back. You'll have had to explain it to somebody in order to get permission to send that employee.
So when we say documentation, what we're referring to, of course, is an incident report as well as that form we just showed you. So fill out those two things and we'll be good. All right, so here's the actual definition of reasonable suspicion. Specific observable facts witnessed by a supervisor that can be described in writing and that indicate an individual may have violated your substance abuse policy. May have. Does that mean they automatically did? A person is not guilty of anything until we get the findings back. So don't assume that a person is high or drunk or stoned just because they appear to have a couple different things going on. Remember, someone can have bloodshot eyes because they're allergic to cats and the person sitting next to them has cats all over them. A person can have slurred speech because they're having a stroke, not because they're high or drunk or stoned. So there's numerous things we want to be looking for, which we're going to get into here. Absolutely. So as I just said, gut feelings, hearsay, all that stuff is not reasonable suspicion. So this is what we can use to observe our employees, observe behavior, trends and patterns. It talks, we can use hearsay and third party. Does that mean that's all we can use? No, if we hear hearsay, that means we go on and we dig a little bit more to see what we can find out and what we can observe. It doesn't mean that we just use those reports as what is fact, okay? Here's how they want us to successfully come up with reasonable suspicion. So identification, documentation, confirmation, and confrontation. First of all, your observation must be passive. So this is the identification portion. Don't say, okay, Althea, I think you're drunk, come here and walk the line. My mom made me do that once.
Oh, did you pass?
No, I failed miserably. But don't say, walk the line, make them go through sobriety tests. Don't touch them in any way. Your observations must be passive, okay? Here's what we're looking for. This is one example, pupil changes. The picture on top, look how small the pupil is. And I have it in my notes, but that I believe is due to amphetamines. It makes your pupil get smaller. The one on the bottom makes your pupil get larger, and that's due to the opposite one. I can't remember which one. But different types of drugs, one will make your pupils smaller, the other one will make your pupils larger.
Yes.
Okay? What's that?
Yeah.
Someone asked me before what nystagmus was. That was one of the things that was on your test. And nystagmus is when, anyone ever gotten pulled over? You don't have to admit it. Everyone gotten pulled over and they have you do the pen test? Yes. The reason they have you do that pen test right away is they're looking for nystagmus. If you have drugs or alcohol in your system, when your eyes get to the end of that pen, your eyes start bouncing back and forth. If you don't have any drugs or alcohol in your system, your eyes will stay like mine are, I hope, right now.
They're bouncing.
Where's that form?
Norma. All right. So nystagmus, that's what that means. That's what we're looking for, bloodshot eyes. From an appearance perspective, bloodshot, watery eyes, then nystagmus, pupil sizes, sedated appearance, excessive use of sunglasses. If someone is wearing sunglasses indoors, what does that tell you? Well, to me, it either means they're high or drunk or stoned. However,
Lenses haven't adjusted yet.
However, I know one person actually in particular out in Ashtabula that always wears glasses. And I actually asked him last time I saw him, I said, why are you always wearing glasses? You stoned, man? I was joking with him. And he goes, no, it's because I have a sensitivity to light.
No, I'm blind.
And that's something I really never thought of before. And that's the reason why he always wears those glasses, because he has a sensitivity to light. So
Yeah, that'll work.
So that could be a reason. All right. Whoa. This was her prior to drugs. This is her after.
Yeah, right. Don't look too happy either way.
I know. Now, from a behavior perspective, what are we looking for? So we're looking for things that we can get patterns from, okay? So if someone's been tardy, every day for the past 3 weeks, but the prior 7 years they haven't been tardy, we're going to try to figure out what's going on, right? We're not going to jump to conclusions that they're high on whatever, but we're kind of going to start to just observe their behavior a little bit and look to see if there's any changes in their behavior from the past. That's what they mean by behavior. Speech, as we said, slow, slurred, rapid, inappropriate laughter. I gotta tell you guys a quick story. So about 4 years ago, I was doing new employee orientation, and I had a really big group that particular week, and all of a sudden at 9:45, you know, you guys know class starts at 9, so at 9:45, it was the first day, I hear the elevator beep, and this woman comes off the elevator, and she's like, sorry, car trouble, sorry I'm late, and she's screaming. And I said, okay, what's your name? And her name was on my list, so I had her take a seat. The only seat left actually was this one right next to the teacher. And so I go and I give her her packet, and I notice she's carrying with her this huge Coleman water thermos. Not like a bottle of water, but the huge ass one that your kid would bring to soccer practice with them. It was like this big, you know. And so she sits down, and I go and I give her her packet, and I made some silly joke or something. And she starts busting out laughing like it's the funniest thing in the whole entire world.
Yeah, right there.
So right then and there, I knew this woman's hammered because she's laughing at my jokes, right? So she is just, she smells of alcohol now. She keeps drinking out of this huge thing. And so to make a very long story short, this was, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago. So I went up to HR at the time, and I said, listen, I think we have an intoxicated person in class. And we went and got a second opinion from their supervisor, and then we ended up taking her for a reasonable suspicion drug test. And she blew a .12 at 10:30 in the morning. So that's just an example there. She smelled of alcohol. She had inappropriate laughter. She had a huge thermos with her that we didn't know what was in it. Those are all examples of reasonable suspicion. Okay. So, granted, she didn't last through training. You know, she was terminated. Body odor. Remember, anytime, and we're not talking about BO, we're talking about actual smelling of alcohol, smelling of weed. There's also a sweet smell. If anyone knows anyone that has ever done meth or any of those types of drugs, there's also a smell that you get when you do like meth or some of those other types of synthetic drugs. It's like a sweet smell. If someone smells of alcohol, smells like weed, smells like that smell of meth, those are automatic, reasonable suspicion. You're going to go take a drug test. So smell of alcohol, smell of marijuana, or that sweet chemical type smell. Okay? All right, so remember, it's not your job as a supervisor to diagnose someone. It's our job to observe what we see and then document it and then report it. Talks about some things that could get you guys as supervisors in trouble. You know, I know that some of you are close to your employees, right? You may have actually become friends with some of your employees because you've worked with them for so long. Well, that can be a trap because now your friend or the person you supervise is saying, oh, please don't turn me in, you know, I'll do this, I'll do this. Well, that's just going to get you in trouble, and that's going to, not only you, but it's going to impact our guys and girls because now we're keeping someone on that may really endanger our guys and girls at some point or another. Sweeping stuff under the rug. Oh, I already have 3 vacancies. I can't let this person go because that'll be my 4th vacancy. Then I'll have more overtime, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter. You know, remember, all this stuff impacts our guys and girls, and that's who we're trying to protect. Ignoring stuff in the first place, that's another one. Treat everyone fairly. Blah, 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 blah. Any questions about anything we just talked about? Okay. Document. That form I just talked about, remember, we have to write down the specifics of everything we saw. And especially with regards to reasonable suspicion, we need to document as clearly as we can. Are we allowed to write, Billy appeared to be drunk?
No.
What do we write?
smelled of alcohol.
Billy smelled of alcohol. He was slurring his speech. We write the actual stuff we observed. Do not write someone appeared to be something because we have no idea. So this is what we were just talking about. This is not okay to use any of that. Not okay to use any of these terms. She looks dirty. So be specific, as we just mentioned. Make sure to include the dates, the times, who you're talking about. Because if we forget dates or forget times, the whole thing could go out the window. Because now the person can say, well, this didn't happen today. It happened, you know, March 2nd at 2 p.m. So we got to make sure we document dates and times. So now let's talk about what we do once we determine that someone is observably acting differently and they smell of alcohol or whatever. Now what do we do? What do you guys as supervisors do at that point?
You have to notify HR, notify Tom, HR.
Now here's the deal. What we want to do, and I know this is not a perfect world, but what we want to do is have a second supervisor observe also what we saw. I know you guys, like Marvella, you're never going to probably have a second supervisor like at one of the homes or something like that. At Salem, you know, same boat. But in a perfect world, we want that second person. But if not, that's when you would observe, document, and then that's when you would call HR right away and let us know what's happening. Okay?
Well, could maybe the second person?
They do.
They who?
If we're around, but if it's 7 o'clock at night at a one-on-one's home,
Well, yeah, I'm
yeah.
just saying.
If
but
there's
you're
someone
around-
there, if you're here, yeah, you can ask us to observe.
Absolutely. That's what we want, but again, it might not be a perfect world all the time. You want to give the employee, have them review what you documented. They have every right to see what it is that we observed, okay? We should ask the employee to sign a statement indicating that such an opportunity has been given for them to review what we offered or what we documented. And if they refuse to look at it, then you can document that refusal as well.
Is that after? I mean, I'm like saying, you just wrote this person up for suspicion of alcohol or marijuana use.
But we're not writing them up.
I mean, you're writing a report, right? So therefore, you're saying, okay, here's this report, now go take your drug test.
They have the right to see what we documented.
However, I would caution
that
when someone's under the influence, it's
Right.
not the time to be providing all sorts of stuff. They have the right as an employee to see what was done or what was documented after the fact. But when that person is under the influence, is not the time to do that. The other thing I would suggest to you is that if you have a cell phone, most of you have smartphones and you have pictures capability and you have video capability. One of your best ways to document someone's strange behavior is just video. You know what? This is a job setting. The employer has the right. Okay. Don't consider this the same as someone walking with a camera and trying to take pictures of you up under your dress when you're walking. This is job performance behavior. They can document if a person has suspicious behavior and there's no second party to help you. That's your backup plan. That person then would have the right, if you use that, to view that video at a later time. Okay.
So number one is
So number one is D, Frank?
Yes.
Someone just brought up, what do we do with the person? So do we let them drive themselves to the drug testing site?
No.
Absolutely not. Never, ever, ever, ever. We do have taxi vouchers, I believe, right?
I've been told that we do. I will
do.
make sure every
You
site.
do
We
because you were gonna send somebody home with a voucher.
We'll get vouchers for places that don't have that.
What happens now if someone says, screw this, I'm leaving?
They are.
Call 911 and report to the police, the car, if you can describe the car. Remember, when someone leaves our site, are we still responsible for them?
Yes, that's why you call the police?
Yes.
That's why you use your cell phone to take a picture of their license plate. There you go.
Right outside. Like you take car accident.
The question comes up frequently. The question comes up frequently for off-campus locations. If you're involved in a situation like this that does warrant somebody being where the drug screen has been authorized, taxi vouchers are not located in the group homes. So what is the current procedure then for if you're an off-campus site?
We have always had the opportunity, and cab vouchers, when they're not available like that, usually can be done with a credit card over the phone. For any suspicious drug testing, I am always notified, as long as I'm in the country, and I can always authorize the use of the credit card for the cab voucher. So it is always available.
Because I think that's more practical than having the supervisor drive them, because the supervisor is being put at risk for potential drug-related or
The
alcohol-related
real issue,
repercussions.
the real issue is that if you authorize it, then, and we're going to pay for it, they have to take them to the hospital for the drug testing. And what some people will try to do, because it's happened, is they'll try to get the cab driver on the way to not go to the hospital, but to go to the someplace else.
Well, that's the other point Tom just brought up, is that if something happens at 2 in the morning, are there drug testing sites open at 2 in the morning? No, so where you take the person then is to the ER, and you have them get drug tested at the ER. Okay.
You send them, you do not take
Will
them.
that pay for that?
For the drug testing?
If they're sent to a facility,
Yeah.
they don't normally do it.
Yes, and we're working on, we have a bigger group of sites that we can use now. So we're getting, UH is getting me a list of every ER that will do the tests in their group. Because, example, you do not ever send anyone to UH main campus, they will not do the test. So I'll make sure every site knows where they can send someone in the middle of the night.
Okay. Yes. I'll tell you in a second. I'm going to go over it. All right, we already talked about it. Let's go over the test. I don't have one. All right, so number 1, which of the following are appropriate actions as you investigate an employee's unusual behavior?
No. Don't change your answer, Frank.
Well, the correct answer would be C.
Right. No.
Norma should have read her test better.
What? Number 2. Which of these definitely constitutes reasonable suspicion? C. Thank you. Number 3, an employer has no legal liability for an employee's actions once they leave. False. False. An employee with a blood alcohol level of 0.02 or higher will be considered to have a verified positive result for alcohol. False. False. What was the legal limit?
But it says 0.02 or higher.
The legal is 0.08.
The natty.
Sorry, daddy legal limit.
But it has higher.
Well, but read the question though.
It says higher.
But it's
0.02
higher.
or higher. That
But it
wouldn't be false.
doesn't, but but it
It
doesn't
should be
start till
.02 or lower.
So .2 is not
Oh,
going
I
to be considered, or
But
.3.
But if it's a point or two, it
What
can
if
go
it's
on,
higher,
it
you go
could
up
be
to-
a point
But
over.
the
What
point
it
of the
is.
question was just to get you to realize that .04 is the legal limit, not .02. I should have added the or higher.
Yep, you should add that higher.
Or lower.
All right, number 5.
C.
While on a 30-minute lunch, someone has 2 bottles of beer. How long will this have a measurable blood alcohol level?
2 hours.
2 hours. Remember, our body metabolizes about 1 drink
Yeah,
per
that's what
hour.
I said.
So if you have 2 beers in 30 minutes, that's going to stay in your system for up to 2 hours. 6, what is reasonable suspicion?
B. No, proof that didn't.
B, right? What are the 4 symptom categories that a supervisor will observe?
C.
Appearance, behavior, speech, and body odor. An employee is allowed to drive themselves or ask a friend to drive them if they have to go to a reasonable suspicion drug test.
False.
False. A supervisor's documentation is what?
B.
All of the
All
above.
of the above. E.
All of the above. And a supervisor's reasonable suspicion documentation has to be completed when?
Before you send.
Before the test results are received. All right, any questions about anything we talked about? Does everyone sign a sign-in sheet? Yes. Adios.
I think you're unreasonable.